Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Welcome to it. Appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. It is literally hotter than hell outside. I think it's like 95 right now. It's 7 p.m. while I'm recording this. Actually, it's 8 p.m. It's like 90-some degrees. Absolutely ridiculous. But you know what the best way to cool down is? Ice Cold Turner's Premium Tea. You already know that. But this episode is proudly sponsored by Turner Dairy Farms, the creators of Turner's Premium Iced Tea. And you could run down to your local bodega and grab yourself an Ice Cold Turner's Premium Tea right now. And that's pretty much it. It's been hot. It's been hot as hell out. Can't really do nothing right now. 90-some degrees. But, you know, my next guest is part of an organization that in times like these, they don't take days off, and it's pretty crazy. So this week I sit down with a very special guest. This week I sit down with Myrna Newman, who is the executive director of Allegheny CleanWays. People that are listening to this might not be familiar with Allegheny CleanWays. So let me break it down for you. Allegheny CleanWays is an organization within the city that is, relatively small. I think Myrna said there's maybe, 10 people total, and that some of them are part-time. So it's not something, it's not a huge corporation. It's not a huge organization. This is a local group of people that are passionate about what they do. But what they do is they combat illegal dumping and litter control. Basically they're going around every day and they are cleaning up illegal dump sites within the city and, doing some amazing work. So it's hard to conceptualize how much illegal dumping and trash is within our city because, if you're not living right next to an illegal dump site, you would never really, it would never really enter your mind. I don't see them often, so often it gets, just gets lost in, the rest of life. But, I started to research this whenever I knew that I was going to talk to Myrna, and I started to go on their website. Their website is AlleghenyCleanWays.org. And I started to look through some of the numbers and the statistics, not really statistics, I guess, but looking at that and looking at, their mission. And right whenever you open up the website, it says the hard work we do isn't for everyone, but the results sure are. So, like I said, they have two main, groups of people. They have the dump busters. I believe that's it. Yeah, dump busters. And then they have, river cleanup. So basically the dump busters are a group that goes out and they find one of these illegal dumping sites and they clean it up. They remove all the debris, all the trash. They take out all the old tires that are in, just strewn all over the world. And not really all over the world, but in our city, there's enough of them to make it seem like it's all over the world. If you look on their website, they have some numbers up there and it says, since they started in, I can't remember whenever they first started to take weights, but over 5 million pounds of trash has been cleaned up from Allegheny CleanWays and all the volunteers. So volunteers so far, 16,700 volunteers so far that have been active in Allegheny CleanWays and been active in cleaning up our city and helping make it more beautiful and more livable. And another statistic that I saw in here that was just absolutely mind-blowing. This is just within Allegheny County. They removed 41,000 tires just within Allegheny County. And it's absolutely insane to think about that. 41,000 tires. I mean, think about how big of an area that could, take up. I was trying to conceptualize it and think how many tires could I fit in my studio right now? And it's insane to think all that. Of course, my dogs are absolutely just losing their mind right now. So my apologies, but definitely not recording this again. But we have an incredible talk. We really kind of get down to something that I feel like a lot of us overlook, which is, environments and what we could do. Well, not environments, but our environment and what's being done to it, what's happening around us that we're not really aware of. And I feel like it's a revealing conversation. I mean, Myrna works in this, so this is like her everyday life. But for all of us who don't work in this, it's not something that I'm sure really gets talked about or thought about. But we talk about, the implementation of recycling in Western PA back in the late 80s, and like her being a part of it and witnessing it. And, we talk about, she brings up the first time she saw like a personal water bottle being brought to like a track meet that she was running. And it's crazy to think about the introduction of a plastic water bottle into the world because of how terrible they are. But it's just pretty crazy to think about that and think about that invention and how that was put into the world, and what the idea of it, how many we use, how many are in landfills. And it's pretty crazy what we talk about. It's kind of depressing to talk about it, but I feel like it's important to be known. So I wanted to bring Myrna in here to try to help break down what Allegheny CleanWays is doing and the mission that they're trying to keep after. And I think we have a pretty great conversation. So without further ado, episode 209 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Myrna Newman of Allegheny CleanWays.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. Have you ever done a podcast?
No, I don't think so.
Never. I'm very
I
surprised.
don't think so.
I'm sure you've done, interviews. It's low pressure.
Yeah.
This is better than doing the radio or anything,
Right.
because you don't have to worry about, something.
Or TV.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I don't do video or anything. It's just very stuffy. People don't want to be on camera the whole time.
No.
You know what I mean? But I am very appreciative of you taking some time out of your day to come over and talk to me. Like I was telling you before, I forgot that was the connection. That was how I came across you, was
So did I. Yeah.
Fancy Bread.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. He was on a while ago, and I don't even.
So cool.
Was it because of the groups?
He was doing the Iron Man. Well,
yeah, he was doing that.
And raising money for us and another organization.
That's what it was.
Through that.
That's what it was.
Pretty amazing.
It was pretty amazing. He really, he did not give up at all.
Did not give up.
He went in the hospital and was there for a while, but thank God he's all right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so I was doing some research, and I've had you guys on my radar for a while. Allegheny CleanWays. You've had a certain number of monikers since the company began in 2000, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of what I want to do is rewind a little bit about you and how you kind of became the executive director. That's who you are of Allegheny CleanWays.
Correct.
Now, are you from Pittsburgh originally?
The outskirts, yes.
Outskirts.
Yeah, Beaver County.
So I read that you did a stint in public education, mm-hmm. and you were there for a while. You were a teacher?
Yes.
What did you teach?
Middle school.
Middle school?
Geography mostly.
Oh, wow. Is that something...
Don't quiz me.
No?
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't even remember enough to quiz you. But is that something that you wanted to do in the beginning? Like you wanted to be a teacher?
I did, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And was it always something like geography, history, stuff like that in realm?
I think so. History.
Yeah.
And ended up teaching geography, which I actually preferred.
Yeah.
I like geography. And I like geography because it had an environmental piece to it.
Yeah.
And that's where my real passion was. And so
It's interesting because when we're young, we kind of like think we kind of know what we want and what we're going to do.
Yeah, I really had no idea. I still don't really have any idea. So
you really didn't have that much of an idea, like in high school, like you had no idea of, aspirations of what you wanted to be.
I think I felt that teaching was a noble profession.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something noble. That was kind of
That's understandable.
But I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
I originally went to Slippery Rock for elementary ed and special ed. I see that's where you ended up. But I did not stay in education. I just didn't want to move out of the state. And in 2008, whenever I was there, they were like, you're basically going to have to move out of the state or away from, a couple hours away if you want a decent job at all.
Right.
And I was like, I just can't do that.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah. Where did you end up moving to?
Delaware.
Did you like it there?
I did.
That would be not bad. I'm not really like a warm. Are you a warm weather person?
No, but Delaware's, it's not that far south, and so we had snow.
Yeah, you get a little bit of both.
Yeah, we had both.
Now, for you to go to school and become a teacher, you did that for a while. What you changed your career? Could I ask, what made you do this? It's kind of a different, you went in a different trajectory. It's kind of an abrupt change.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. I kind of have lived a few different lives. At that point, I think it was both, my ex-husband and I were building a house out of tires.
I was going to ask you about that. I saw that.
Yeah. And so I was getting more and more into the environmental piece of things, and realizing that teaching was probably not really my thing.
Yeah.
And it was just stressful, and it was taking up a lot of my time. That was part of it, is that it was taking over my life. I didn't have really good boundaries.
Yeah.
So kids called me at 10 o'clock at night, and parents were calling all the time. They were just, I wasn't good at having boundaries, but I also was realizing that that's not really where my interests lie. So I stopped teaching and started working on our house full time.
Oh, okay.
And then I was working part-time with doing a few other things.
You built a house out of tires. You were working on building a house out of tires.
I was.
Now, I'm curious because, as a young person, 15, 16 years old, that's the last thing in my mind. Sure. Actually, I have to take that back because I was involved with Boy Scouts for over a decade, and we did a lot of cleanups, so that was always something that I was involved with. But as far as that, it wasn't something that was in my mind to kind of not be as wasteful. And I feel like that up until probably the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's been, that's when it's really started to get, not really necessarily beaten into my head. That's a negative connotation, but it kind of needs to be beaten into people's heads. Sometimes. But I became aware of it. I could say that. Now, when were you always aware of kind of the environment and things you were doing that were affecting the environment?
Yeah, I think I was kind of born a 70-year-old woman.
Yeah.
So I was kind of always uber
old
responsible
soul.
and had the weight of the world on my shoulders. So I think I kind of always felt that. And then I had a strong faith, especially in my teens and early 20s, and that kind of played into it also. The idea of creation care, caring for, being a good steward of the environment, that sort of thing. So I think all of that played into it. And I grew up on a farm. So I was outside all the time. So, outdoors, environment.
That was part of your life.
It was all part of my DNA. That was all built in. And
now, was your family recycling back then? Was there recycling?
Recycling didn't start actually in Pennsylvania until I was in college. I was at Allegheny. So 88, I think, is when the recycling in Western Pennsylvania started. And I was up in Meadville at Allegheny College, and I remember it's just starting. And, again, because I'm a bit of a rule follower, it used to drive me nuts that people would put garbage in the recycling, or, they would mix it up or not do the right thing. So
yeah,
I was very serious about it from the get-go.
Well, that's good though. I mean, we all have our own things that we get upset about, but I was definitely someone, in college that might have put some styrofoam in the wrong bin, and it's
because you were normal. I think is what it comes down to.
I wasn't aware of it. That's what it was. You were more aware of things, and I often talk on here a lot about how I ask people about what they were like when they were younger, because it's always mind-blowing to me to hear about how someone navigates their life to where they are now, because, we're obviously talking about what you do, what you're involved with, your passions, but in the beginning it wasn't that, obviously, and it's fascinating to me to hear, how people kind of get there, but I never really cared about things whenever I was younger. I made a lot of surface decisions, never really like put thought into a lot of it. So it just fascinates me whenever people were like, I was definitely like aware of things, because I just didn't care about things. And now I'm overly, so I'm making up for lost time, I would say. Yeah. Now, Allegheny, you were up there. I had a good friend that graduated from there. I mean, you kind of injecting yourself into this, into these new rules that were being, put into play. What did that look like whenever recycling was like being implemented? Because, I can't even imagine telling a bunch of people from up, around Slippery Rock, like, hey, you guys got to separate your trash now. And you guys got to just, you got to do it this way.
Yeah, I don't remember how the logistics of all that went, honestly. I remember the recycling bins, public recycling bins going in Meadville, and I worked in Meadville. Yeah. And so that's interesting. So I was out and about a lot more, and I remember it bothering me that people weren't doing the right thing. And I'm trying to remember what we would have done. I think part of it was, for instance, plastic water bottles weren't really a thing at that time. I remember I was running track when the first person on our track team brought bottled water. Oh, wow. And we joked about it. We, kind of made fun of them. They were friends, so it was really made fun of them, but, joked around with them of, like, there's a fountain. Why on earth would you bring water? It's just ridiculous.
That's crazy to think about.
And that was more like an Evian kind of water. It was not in plastic. It was in glass. It was, like that was when I was in high school, I don't remember having plastic water bottles, and probably in college also.
That's interesting to think about too, because even I remember, like, my vague, very young memories, 3, 4 of like even Gatorade in glass bottles, like just the lime Gatorade in glass bottles, and like how, it's interesting that, I definitely remember like a little bit of like the glass bottle bit, but it would be wild to like kind of conceptualize, the takeover of plastic bottles, and everyone's like, man, these are so much better. They're not fragile. Right. You could just fill them up. Yeah. Convenient. But then they're just like, they're going to be here for 800 years probably. And I remember like, I probably early 20s is whenever I like started to hear about like, this plastic is never going to break down in all of our lifetimes. And I was just like, that can't be right. And then like, obviously we're in this world now where we have like, all this information at our fingertips, and, you're going to get it whether you like it or not. And you're like, geez, I remember I read an article about AirPods, Apple AirPods, and it was just like, it's just terrible. Just the numbers that they put out. Yeah. And like where the things end up, just wild. But water bottles, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of depressing. That's one thing that we really try to fight, is the depression part of things. I think environmentalists can be doomsayers and can be, they can be Debbie Downers. There's so much in the world right now to be upset and concerned about. Yeah. That honestly, we're trying as an organization not to be pushing that so kind critical. And pushing that narrative. So most of us are kind of not. I'm not sure how to say this. We're not active participants in we're not generating the plastic. We're not asking for the plastic.
Yeah.
We purchase it, but we don't have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of, it's kind of shoved on us.
Absolutely.
And so we don't, so it's really hard for us we don't want to be pointing fingers at anyone saying, well, you shouldn't be using all that plastic, because what else do we have? There's the psychology of marketing and all of that, as you said,
that's a whole different beast to get into.
Whole different, and how things have come to be, like you said, the plastic water bottles, and how we went from saying, why on earth would anyone? There's a water fountain. Why would you ever need water bottles? To not leaving home without a water bottle.
Absolutely. I mean,
I don't.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it is, because I definitely have one. We all have one.
Yeah.
A good bit of it. But it's interesting that you say that now, because even going into like any sort of convenience store that we have, I don't think you can get a water bottle that's glass. There might be some now, but they obviously have like some cans, and they obviously have boxes, and that's probably more, what's the right word? That could, we could do things with that more than just like plastic. So it's kind of, it's kind of crazy. I figured that's why you picked Liquid Death.
Liquid Death.
Yeah.
Right? Not only is it great marketing,
murder your thirst.
Yeah. So I love that. But also that it's aluminum can. Aluminum's infinitely recyclable, can become an aluminum can
Million
again
times.
and again and again and again. Plastic is not. It gets downcycled. So it gets made into something that often is not recycled again. So it can be recycled, a plastic water bottle, but it becomes fleece, or it becomes, the plastic that you use for making a deck or something like that. And then that can't be recycled. So it gets downcycled, but aluminum can continue to become aluminum.
That's pretty wild to even just think about the whole like water bottle, like just the thought of it all. But I feel like I have to, we have to champion past that and talk about it. No, that's all right, because it's grim to think about it, because it's like, I immediately think about that case of water right there and the waters that I have in my fridge. And, I spent a lot of time, I was thinking like, I need to get a Dean's water jug in here, because people obviously sometimes want water whenever they're talking. And, I usually just have these water bottles. And the one guy I had on here, he was a yoga instructor. He drank like probably 8 bottles of water in the 3 hours that we talked. And I just remember throwing them away, or not throwing them away, but recycling them, trying to recycle them. Right. And just thinking like, something's messed up here. We got to figure this out. But then it's like, we're in this like pandemic world where people are like, clean glass, I'd rather have my personal thing. So it's like, you're like, geez, it's kind of weird to think about all this. And then you get into the whole world of plastic silverware and cutlery and the stuff that they give you 15 of them in a bag where you only need one thing. That's a whole different beast. But Allegheny CleanWays. Now we're here. We're at Allegheny CleanWays. Through your is it Myriad? Is that the right word?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Labyrinth of a Life. You end up at Allegheny CleanWays. Did I read that it happened in 2007? You started there?
Yes.
I think it said that you were like a part-time like project manager.
Correct.
And
project coordinator.
Project coordinator. Now, Allegheny CleanWays, can you give me a little bit of history about like how something like this gets implemented as an organization? Because it's pretty fascinating once I started to hear about it.
Yeah. So my understanding of the origin of this organization was that it actually started in Greensburg as an organization called PA CleanWays, Pennsylvania CleanWays. And it was started by a woman who was riding her horse. Her horse would spook at a certain spot, and she found out there was illegal dumping over the hillside. And that's what the horse was kind of spooking at. And long story short, she organized a big cleanup of it, and in doing that, learned all of the ins and outs and the challenges of that, and realizing that there just aren't places to take tires or refrigerators or some of the items that were thrown over the hillside. So she started this organization to help other people clean up dumping in that area, and it grew, realizing that obviously that one dump site was not the only one in that area or in Pennsylvania. And so Allegheny County, and then there's a tri-borough, tri-state, tri-county. That's what I'm trying to say.
Tri-county.
Tri-county CleanWays also, which is Mercer, I think it's Mercer, Butler, and Lawrence. And those were the first two, after Westmoreland CleanWays, then those were the first two that started. And now there are several around the state, CleanWays organizations. And since then, they actually took on the name of Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful.
Okay.
And, the three original CleanWays, Westmoreland CleanWays, Allegheny CleanWays, and the Tri-County CleanWays, they maintained that name. And
they all work together under that umbrella?
We're all independent 501c3s. We're all independent nonprofits, but we're
it's like a community
sister organization.
Effort. Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone wants the same goal.
Right. These
aren't really competing for anything. You're just trying to, I guess you are, whoever can clean up the most.
There are some friendly competitions that happen, yeah.
That's good, though. Yeah. I mean, and it's pretty impressive. I looked on the website. First thing that popped up, the hard work we do isn't for everyone, but the results sure are. And that's pretty powerful to think about. And I obviously am kind of aware of what Yins do down there. But for people that don't, like if you look at their Instagram, is it Allegheny CWS? Is that
I think it's just Allegheny CW.
Allegheny CW. You could look at a million pictures of, piles of tires, trash, just like, more than the eye could see. And it's a dirty job. And you got to be real with it. Who wants to be in the woods cleaning up trash and doing everything? Someone's got to do it. 85
out or 90 tomorrow.
90 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was 95. Disgusting out today even.
Right.
But it isn't for everyone, but the results sure are, because realistically, everyone is working and doing this dirty work for one, main goal, to keep where we live a beautiful place. Mm-hmm. And it's powerful that that slogan, that ode to live by. But I thought that was pretty interesting at first, and then you scroll down and you see some numbers, and the numbers are what kind of just threw me through a loop. So it says over 5 million pounds of trash currently cleaned up, and the current number was 5,424,634 pounds, give or take a couple, I'm sure.
Right.
Then it says over 40,000 tires, 41,002. And then it said 197,200 pounds of metal. Like, it's mind-blowing to think about that. 5 million pounds of trash. So first thing, though, Allegheny CleanWays, how big is this organization?
We're pretty small.
Yeah.
Just right now, we just have 2 full-time staff members. We just lost one full-time person. We're in transition right now. We have there are, I think, 10 of us.
Yeah.
Most are part-time, because our crews that go out, we call it dump busting.
Okay.
And dump busting is hard work.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to do for 8 hours at a time. So we have a lot of part-time people that help with that. And then volunteers, obviously. Yeah,
and then it said 16,726 volunteers. Yeah, that's impressive as well.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive. Many hands make light work.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, there's so many things to unpack. First thing is first, who takes the inventory of what's cleaned up? Who's counting these tires? Because I want to know how you even come up with this number. Do you take a number after every cleanup?
Yeah, we actually we count them, and we weigh everything.
That's
we have a
insane.
We have a scale. I will say when I first started, we were not weighing everything. We were estimating, and we would kind of go by. I was using my car. We were very small. We were one executive director, and then I was part-time.
Yeah.
And, so I was working out of the back of my car, and we would estimate by, that looks like it's about a pickup truck load. So maybe that's a half a ton.
Yeah.
Like we were guessing
a
lot. And then we would weigh certain things, like, get an idea of what a bag of trash weighed, so we could estimate. And same with tires. But we counted everything and we weighed everything. Now we have scales, and every
It's a little bit more
trash can,
a little bit more thorough.
Everything gets weighed.
Now,
completely.
I was thinking about this, and I was like, oh, putting these numbers on here, some people might just, some people might not need to see the numbers, but it does so much more than just saying like, oh yeah, we clean up a lot of trash. You know what I mean? But to be able to say like, to be able to see the numbers, 5,400,000, just to see it, it does a certain level of like, conceptualizing it. 40,000 tires. That's 41,000. I'm sorry. That's insane to think about. And it's just, it leads me down these, rabbit holes of all these questions. Like, I asked you how you guys inventory everything, but it's like, where does this trash go when you clean it up? You know what I mean? Like, where do you put 40,000 tires?
That's the $1 million question.
The $1 million question.
Particularly around tires. That's, we actually we started a tire task force this year to look at the problem of discarded tires.
Yeah.
To look at tires in general, not just discarded tires, but there's a problem in the country with tires. We use a lot of tires, first of all. I mean, each car has 4 tires. We change them. Yeah, minimum. And, how frequently we get those changed. We don't use retreads anymore. Are they even legal?
I don't know if they're legal. Seems like a hazard.
Yeah. They can be done safely. But
people don't want to go through the hoops.
But we don't use retreads. Yeah. And so, it's constant new tires, and that's a lot of tires.
Absolutely.
And so what becomes of them? And there really are there are 3 main options right now. That's to shred them, to cut them up and make them into crumb rubber, which then gets used in playgrounds and climbing gyms, as kind of mulchy kind of stuff, or it gets put into asphalt and things like that. That's a very small portion. That's I should have looked up the number. I think it's less than 15%, something like that gets used in that way. The other is to incinerate and use it for fuel. Okay. And then the third is landfilled. Yeah. And those are even to landfill, you do have to cut them up because they will rise to the top of the landfill. Yeah, so
you grind them up and everything like that.
Well, you have to slice them.
Okay. I've seen them like grinding machines, like people that we've worked with before. He just got out of one job completely and just started grinding down tires for companies. And it's pretty wild to think about, just where all this stuff goes. Because like I said before, I was just ignorant to it all whenever I was younger, but then you see like, the great trash heap floating in the ocean that's the size of Texas, and you're just like, is this real even? And you're like, I know that like there's multiple times where I'm like, I got all this trash, I'm just throwing it away, and it's just, you're just adding to it. And like you were saying before, it's hard to not, wallow in the despair of like what's realistic in the world, but it definitely does a lot to be able to like start to read about it, hear about it a little bit more, hear some numbers, and that's just around here, right?
Oh yeah, that's just Allegheny County, and really it's mostly just the Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh and surrounding areas. We're working quite a bit right now in Penn Hills and McKeesport. Yeah, but that's really all that's out of Pittsburgh. Other than we do riverfront cleanups also. So we have a boat and a barge. We're getting a second boat. We take volunteers out along the riverfront and clean trash up there too. And that is the extent of the county and all 3 rivers. But it's really mostly just the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's wild to think about that. It's crazy. Now, I mean, as you're developing, a organization into being something that it is today, from being that small organization, how do you go from, obviously, if it's just, a couple people in the beginning, it's different now because I'm sure you have different communication set up where you have places to take things and places to dispose of things. But whenever you're a small organization that's not really established like that yet, it's like, how do you really manage what you could do? Because if I'm going into the woods right there and I see a dump truck full of trash that's probably like 4 weekends if you're only like, trying to throw it away through your trash. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to get at in so many words is, you can only dispose of so much at one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we found. I think, honestly, that's one of the reasons that the organization originally was founded.
Yeah.
Is because that's what that woman experienced. She did this cleanup and then didn't know where to take certain things and realized that other people were doing the same thing. If anyone was cleaning up, it was then their responsibility to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so giving people the tools and the resources to know what to do is one way that we can help. So not only our mission is to engage and empower people to clean up litter and illegal dumping. So we engage the volunteers and work with them to clean up trash, but we also empower hundreds, if not thousands, of people to clean up trash on their own as well.
Yeah.
Because by giving them the resources, the tools, the know-how, giving them those answers to the questions that you were just asking of what do you do with it now? Where do you take the tires?
Yeah.
The answer for tires, unfortunately, there aren't many places that you can take them. And so that's why we're forming this task force, is to try to find some different ways,
to utilize them and try to repurpose them at some point.
Locally, trying to find places that people can take. If you live in the city of Pittsburgh, you can take 2 tires to the city will collect 2 tires at a time, but you have to take them to the drop-off centers, and they're free.
2 at a time.
2 at a time.
Yeah. Because if you do it at a car dealership or anything like that, they charge you a service to dispose of them.
Yep. So if you live outside of the city, you have to take them to a car dealership.
Yeah.
If they'll take them, and most will, but there's a fee.
Yeah.
Other than that, many of the municipalities, there's nothing that you can do with them.
Yeah.
So
I see like sometimes maybe like once a month or a quarter, they'll do a tire pickup, but it's like, that can only be so much. If everyone's like storing this, like hoarding these things that they have to do, because as a citizen of the township here, I had to like go through hoops and, jump over things to figure out just when I could put rugs out, how I could put them out, what will be taken. I never, this is my first real home where I'm trying to figure this stuff out. So I don't know that you can only do certain things like this. So it's, what you were saying, it's, empowering people. It's just, some people for things like this, I don't see, not everyone, but I'm sure some people just don't like go out of their way to figure these things out. So they kind of, for you to be able to just hand it to someone a little bit easier, it's probably going to make it, easier for people to adapt to what's, around.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. Most people don't have the time or the energy, to do the research needed to figure out. I don't always have the time and the energy to figure out what to do with all of the things that I end up collecting that comes to me through purchases or whatever.
Yeah.
So I know most people don't have that time. So, we try to make it easy by educating people, but we also are working on the policy and procedural kind of things that make it easier for people to do the right thing.
Yeah.
In that way as well. So in other words, working with some of the municipalities to make it easier for them to hold the collection events that you're talking about. Because even the municipalities, when they're doing a collection event, like a tire collection event, they have to pay for those tires then.
Yeah, and they got to put them somewhere too.
And they have to find a location to take them to. And there's one tire recycling in the whole region. It's Liberty Tire, and they are actually their headquarters are in Pittsburgh, but the nearest recycling center is in Minerva, Ohio. So it's about a 2 hour and a half, 2 hour drive from here.
Is that a place you can take tires?
Well, an individual can't, as far as I know.
Okay,
but the municipalities would hire a hauler to take them to that facility.
That makes sense.
And then pay, for the tires to be recycled. So it's not easy for the municipalities either.
Yeah.
And so helping them figure those things out. Just recently, a lot of the municipalities had to find solutions for glass recycling.
That's what I was going to ask about, something about that, because I've heard somewhere that glass can no longer be recycled. And I have not looked into that too much, but I still put glass in my recycle bin. I was hoping you'd be able to clarify that for me.
Yeah, it's not a matter that it can't be recycled. It's that what was happening is when glass is... A lot of the problem comes down to the single stream recycling that we all were told was the solution.
What is single stream?
Single stream is what we moved to make it easier, supposedly easier for people to recycle. In other words, you can put everything in one bin. There was a time, and you may be too young.
Separated colors.
You had to separate.
Yeah.
You had bottles in one thing, glass in another. You might have to separate the color of the glass.
Yeah.
You have plastics in one thing, metal in another, paper in another. And
so single stream is just put everything in one and we'll deal with it.
Yep. And so the recycling centers moved to handling that single stream. They have sorters. It's actually a pretty fascinating thing. You can get tours of these and to watch how they separate things.
Machine is insane.
Yeah. So for most things, it works pretty well. There's still some contamination happens, but what was really becoming problematic is glass breaking and paper. So when you throw your glass into the recycling bin, all of the glass eventually breaks down, gets broken when it gets into the truck, whatever. It gets broken into smaller pieces. That was actually contaminating the paper.
Yeah.
And so the paper recycling was basically worthless. It was contaminating both. Paper was contaminating the glass, and the glass was contaminating the paper. So made both of them not really very recyclable, and so pretty much worthless. So if those two are separated, they're both extremely recyclable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of municipalities just stopped recycling the glass because the recyclers weren't taking the glass because it was broken and contaminated and so forth. So one of our partner organizations, Pennsylvania Resources Council, stepped up, and they do a lot of the hard to recycle events and collection events that are around the area. And so they started providing glass recycling bins to some of the municipalities. And we were helping them with that the first year when they were piloting it. And it was a huge success. And so many municipalities now they have bins that they set out, and people can drop off their glass there.
Now, could I ask why would they even change it to a single stream? I feel like that would just be creating more work for people that are working in the recycling industry. So why not just put the work on the individual homes? It's just like a couple extra seconds to do that. Or is America just that lazy?
Well, or maybe we assume that America is just that lazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was I'm not sure which came first.
Yeah.
If it was an assumption that, we're not getting the numbers that we need. And I think that was kind of what the push was. The municipalities were not meeting their quota. And so they were, or their goals.
Yeah.
Their recycling goals. And so they were trying to figure out ways to make it easier for people to do the right thing. And really, I remember the sorting days, and I had several bins, and that takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And you have to be diligent about it, and you have to care enough to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that
they were probably like, we'd rather have people do it this way than not do it at all.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And so that's what they did. And
wow.
And there's logic to that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. There definitely is. Because I'm sure with that logic, they got way more people to recycle rather than like sorting everything out, taking the labels off it, washing everything out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely, not everyone wants to go through all that extra to do things.
There was a time when newspapers, and the other, I think, problem with recycling in general is that the rules seem to change a lot.
Yeah. And they don't seem to be very
clear, yeah.
To people that are not in this world.
Even to people who are in the world.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not clear for you guys, like for me, I have no idea.
Yeah, and they're different from from one area to another. One municipality to another.
That's true too.
Within Allegheny County, there are 170 some municipalities. I don't know.
I know. My brother lives over in Irwin, and they told him that he wasn't allowed to use a certain size recycle bin. Yep. But I am,
allowed. So it's very confusing, and it used to be that the numbers that there was a push also for people to kind of pay attention to the numbers on the plastics, the 1s and 2s and 3s and 5s and 6s and 7s and so forth. And it was kind of drilled in for a while that 1s and 2s are recyclable. And the language we're trying to use now is really bottles, jugs, and jars. If it's a bottle, jug, or jar, it can be recycled. If it's not, it probably really can't be.
Yeah, like plastic silverware and stuff like that.
Yeah, it can't be. So what we call it is wish cycling. People put everything into the recycling bin now.
Yeah.
If it's made out of plastic, so a plastic swimming pool, for instance, might end up in the recycling.
100%. I cut up a small one and I put it in my recycling bin.
And it's not recyclable.
Jeez.
So what you did is contaminate the recycling, but you're not alone.
Well, I don't know. I think I'm like, you know what? I'm not just going to just throw this shit in the trash. I'm going to just cut it up and I'll put it in the recycling bin.
I know.
So you're telling me that bottles, jugs, and jars are pretty much it. People that are throwing, just
tubs, like the yogurt tubs.
That's exactly what was in my mind. A yogurt tub. That's not getting recycled? Really?
Mostly no.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty heavy to think about. Because I feel like, I don't know, do you think that that's known by, the layman who's not in, the garbage world?
No, I think that's the problem. And the tubs that I chose a bad example because some places they do recycle those.
That's fine.
And it's...
I'm not splitting hairs, but I know what you're talking about. Right. Like my wife is a wishful, what did you call it? A wish cycler. Wish cycler. Mm-hmm. Everything that's plastic, you better put it in there. And it's like up until this point, I'm like, hell yeah, babe, let's do it. I'm right there with you.
Well, of course, because you want to do the right thing. And those are on some level, that's the person we want, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the ethic that we want.
Yeah.
We want someone who says, yeah, I want to recycle as much as I can. And we've been told from the time you were told anyway, from the time you were little, that recycle, right? So it's been ingrained in you. And the reality is that then we're producing a lot of stuff that really can't be recycled.
Absolutely.
So, and that's been a big awakening in the last few years. And then that leads often to people saying, well, it's not being recycled anyway. So see, I knew it was all a...
Yeah, but then it just compacts. Yeah. It's definitely a slippery slope because, there's not really like a right answer. There's not really a clear answer. Everyone's just kind of figuring it out along the way and hoping for the best and just, full hearts can't lose, you know what I mean? But it's realistically, it's not always how it works out to be.
Yeah. Aluminum. Always recyclable.
The best.
And aluminum right now, I think you can get a lot for aluminum too.
Really?
By the way, yeah, I think
nice.
Right. I'm seeing a lot more scrappers out.
So
that's usually my clue that the scrapping is.
I work in steel. I buy a lot of steel for what I do for my full-time job, and just to see the prices of things. I think last year we looked, and the price per pound of just a regular, carbon steel was like something ridiculous, like 35 cents per pound, and now it's like $1 per pound almost.
It's gone up a lot.
It's really crazy to think about because, everyone that I talk to, has some sort of, there's some sort of repercussion for what's going on in the world, and people are facing it, whether it's, through what you're doing or through, being a chef or something like that with food. And it's pretty crazy to hear about everyone's, struggle. And it sucks as an interviewer to, kind of bring up, the whole idea of COVID because it's beat to death. Everyone's been talking about it, but it's a realism in a business, a business that's surviving in this world, trying to survive. it's a scary thing.
It was a hard few years.
I bet it was. I bet it was for sure. Now, illegal dumping, I feel like I remember seeing. I was trying to think about this, like trying to go back in my mind and think about like my first like idea of it. And I remember always seeing like people have signs up that said like clean fill wanted, things like that. And I know that that's different than just like people illegal dumping on there. But I remember seeing these random piles of trash on the side of the road with tires and all this trash in there. And like, I never really understood the problem that we had with illegal dumping until I clicked on that illegal dumping map that you have on the website.
Yeah.
And if you click on it, it is outrageous. It looks like you took a jar of sprinkles and just sprinkled it over Pennsylvania, and it just landed all in one area. I was absolutely blown away by that. And I feel like the people that are listening to this don't understand it. You know, I'm definitely going to post that up and try to highlight that people should, you know, kind of look at it and just get an idea, because, you know, but it's ignorance is bliss. You know, that's how people think about a lot of things.
Well, unfortunately, most of us don't have to see that.
Yeah.
And most of us don't have illegal dumping near us. But there are certain areas that do, whether it's a particular neighborhood or particular.
Where do you find is more common?
Wherever there's a lot of vacancy.
Yeah.
So in urban settings, it tends to be in the neighborhoods where there had been houses. There's a lot of vacancy. Sometimes more poverty or more low income, not housing, but where there are houses that are falling down.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's not tended.
Yeah. Dilapidated areas.
Dilapidated areas. So those types of communities, but really just about anywhere in Pennsylvania, because we have a lot of hills and wooded.
100%. A back road
hillsides.
right here. I just seen one recently.
Yep.
Just a back road. And it must have been someone, you know, people must just do this like real late at night.
Yep.
Go to the side, throw all the stuff out and just gone. It's crazy.
Well, one of the reasons that I started at this organization.
Your mother was a victim.
Exactly. Yes.
I did my research.
Yes, you did.
It's interesting because, you know, I'm curious because, you know, you said you grew up on a farm, you had some area, and how did this happen? Like one day Ian's just had a bunch of pile of shit there?
Yeah, actually it's been happening more and more, not to the level that she had it, but I was living in Utah at the time, and I got a phone call from her. She was living on the farm, widow, and someone had dumped a dump truck load of asphalt shingles, which is really common. We find it all the time. But at the time, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why would someone do that?
Yeah.
They dumped it on the side of where tractors go up into our field. So it was looked like a little bit of a road, but they dumped it. And she didn't know, you know, how am I supposed to clean that up? She didn't have the equipment or anything like that, and was living on the farm by herself. So I did some research and saw this organization. Long story short, her township, Independence Township, shout out to them in Beaver County. They helped her get it cleaned up. So they were wonderful and got it cleaned up. But not everyone has that resource.
Yeah. When was this? What year you think?
Like 2000, probably 5 or 6.
So back then, obviously we have resources now, but back then, you know, when you were researching this, did you find it to be difficult to like try to find someone to do this, or was it still like?
Yeah, the only place that I could find was Allegheny CleanWays.
Yeah.
And they were young. They were Allegheny CleanWays was started in 2000, so there wasn't a whole lot of information, but I at least was able to contact someone and get some information. They actually suggested contacting the township, but and the township did take care of it. But that's how I got introduced to them at first. And we still find, I mean, and I remember even when I was growing up, we'd find, you know, trash thrown over the hillside, and we'd have to go pick it up. Or now it's TVs. We find TVs a lot.
Really? TVs? Is that that's what I was gonna
tires.
That's what I was gonna say. I would assume tires is probably the biggest nuisance, besides for obviously trash. But what are some other things that you find there that are a common thing besides TVs? People are dumping refrigerators over the hill and stuff.
Not as much anymore, but we still always find refrigerators.
Yeah.
A lot of construction and demolition.
Yeah, unfortunately for that.
And that's usually, we assume anyway, that it's someone who's doing a home renovation.
Yeah,
and
flip, demo, something like that.
They don't want to rent a dumpster, or they do, they throw it in the back of their pickup. Sorry.
That's all right.
Throw it in the back of the pickup and then dump it over some hillside nearby. So we jokingly say it's not a dump site until we find a toilet, because inevitably there's a toilet floating around somewhere. Lots of baby dolls and baby doll parts.
Yeah, I whenever I follow Ian's on Instagram, I see a lot of the stuff that Ian's pick.
Yeah.
That Ian's pick, and I a lot of it's very eerie and weird, but I feel like a lot of it's just like us thinking it. Like any creepy doll is going to be weird to me.
And especially when it's covered in dirt.
And
it's
eyes missing.
And the eyes are missing, yeah.
Exactly. You're like, what kind of weird stuff was happening back here? It's crazy to think that, it's such like a thing that happens so often, because the map is insane. Like it really was just like, it's kind of taken me aback that there were so many, do you have any idea offhand what the number of dump sites there are in there?
So that map started when we did an assessment. Let me start. I think Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, or PA CleanWays, did an assessment originally of the city and of the county. I think the first one was in 2005, and I think they found like 200 and some dump sites in the county, not in the city. And then I think in the city, we did one in 2009, I think it was. I'm losing track of time. And found 281, something like that. And those were dump sites that we identified from the road in driving or walking. So we didn't go down over the hillsides.
Yeah, that's just apparent ones.
Those are apparent ones.
Yeah.
And when we started systematically cleaning them up, and we would go neighborhood by neighborhood and clean up all the dump sites. And what we realized is for every one that we could see, there were 2 or 3 other ones that we couldn't see, because Pittsburgh especially, but Pennsylvania in general, has all the wooded hillsides. And in Pittsburgh, there used to be homes on a lot of those wooded hillsides, and there used to be streets on some of those wooded hillsides, and they don't exist anymore. And so when we got into the woods, sometimes we would find these dump sites that you'd have no idea were there, except when the leaves are off the trees, or you couldn't see them.
You could see through a little bit more.
Yeah. So we estimated there were probably closer to 1,000 dump sites, and that's about where we are right now in the city. And then we did an assessment.
These are still active sites, or sites that have been cleaned?
Some of them have been cleaned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them get redumped.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Is there like hot points where people go that's like, now in these points that are like, active zones, is there any sort of like, I'm sure the cops, listen, I get it. The cops probably got more important stuff to worry about, but like, what are the ideas of like maybe putting a camera up or something like that?
We do have cameras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we use cameras, sometimes successfully, sometimes not.
Have you caught people?
We have. Mm-hmm.
What are the consequences?
That's the problem.
Yeah. I don't find them to be a lot. That's probably a slap on the wrist at first.
Well, I think it all is way more complicated than when you, just like you were saying earlier, when you start digging into things, you realize how complicated something is. Our knee-jerk reaction is put up some cameras. And so we did that. And part of the problem is, number one, the cameras don't always catch what we need them to catch.
Yeah.
They're not aimed exactly at the right spot. They don't get the license plate. Or they don't get the person's face, and to be able to convict, you need the license plate in some areas. Yeah,
there's a lot of gray areas that you got to have all your T's and I's.
Right. So, we actually try to put a few cameras in a location, one to try to catch the dumping, one to catch the license plate, one to
the whole thing.
Yeah. So do a whole thing. And then once someone is actually convicted, if they are go to before the magistrate and the magistrate fines them, then they have to pay the fine. And if they were a person who was dumping to begin with, they might not, one, have the money, or number two, care to pay the fine because they're criminals anyway.
Yeah.
Or they're, not too worried about doing the wrong thing. And so getting fines is just very, very difficult. Some don't show up to the court hearing. And so it's not always so easy. We're actually trying to work more toward getting people to clean up the dumping. So come out and volunteer with us. So getting community service, getting assigned community service, requiring them to work with us to clean
fantastic.
Up dump sites.
I love that. It's like Free Willy whenever the kid was spraying all the paint on the tank, and then he goes and he hangs out with him.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, because again, if you're cutting the corner to not get a dumpster, there's a reason you're doing that. And whether it's because you don't have the money or because you don't care about that stuff, either case, you're not probably going to pay the fine. And, we really want to, the real mission is to get it cleaned up.
Yeah, that's right? What I mean. So, I would, if I was you guys, I'd be like, I don't care about the money. Have his ass come out here and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's plus that's probably going to make a little bit more of an impact on the person.
So much more.
Sweating to death in 8 hours out here
and realizing what a pain it is. And there's not,
how gross everything is, and it
doesn't go away. It doesn't. The plastic breaks down in little tiny pieces, and all of the animals that you see that end up getting caught in it or have all of the things.
It's wild to think about that because we would hope that. In the progression of the world, and we're spoiled with what we have at our fingertips as far as information and things like that. You would hope that everyone was able to kind of meet at that focal point of wanting to make the place that we all live better. But it's wild because there's people that I still see throw trash out the window. My brother he was notorious for pulling over, grabbing trash, speeding up to people and shaming them. Might have not been the right thing to do. He was 19, 20, but that's how I started to realize, I don't want to do that. And the Boy Scout thing, Boy Scouts, you're familiar, you said McKeesport. You're familiar with Lake Emily? Lake Emily is right by the band shell, McKeesport, that scary lake. Well, every year we would go behind that where the lake would run off behind there, and we'd clean that whole hillside up. And, every year we would clean it, it was a whole weekend. We'd sleep in the park and we'd spend the weekend there. But the next year there would be just as much trash, and you'd be kind of blown away. How could this even be like that? I saw something on Reddit. A guy in California, he would hike this trail every day, and he would take 2 5-gallon buckets with him. And I think he said he hiked it every day for 100 and some days until he was never, and he would fill up 2 5-gallon buckets every time he would go. And at one point he posted a picture, and there was not enough trash to fill up the buckets. Wow. And just a young kid. It was awesome to hear about, because if you're walking anyway, I started to carry bags with me anywhere, if I'm fishing or anything like that. I have a trash bag in my thing because, if I'm walking out, it's crazy. The thing that really gets me that I have a problem with myself is dog poop bags.
Yeah, that are flung into trees.
Not even that, just even the people that are using them the right way. It's just think about how many of those got to be in there as well. Me and my wife were talking about it. I know. It's just I'm part of the problem.
Me too.
You know what I mean? It's crazy to think about that. And they say, "Oh, these are recyclable," but are they recyclable with a pile of shit in them?
Well, you mean compostable?
Yeah, I guess.
That's a whole other
thing.
That's a whole other thing that you probably don't want me to get into. But.
Yeah, but I know that has to be a frustration. That's how it says how I talked to a guy who was he runs a garden, a community garden, a bigger one, and he was talking about how things that are certified organic, just the labels of things could be so misleading. So there's probably a whole whole different beast whenever it becomes to that.
Yeah.
So for you to, you know, I'm sure you have a full schedule of more dumps than you guys could, you know, clean up. And I know that that is, but for you to build this in the beginning, as far as like, you know, acquiring places that need cleaned up, you said you would just drive by, see a dump site, and then, you know, beyond that, you would just find more and then add those to the list. Is that kind of how it would work?
Yeah. So once we did the full assessment of the city, and that assessment was we actually hired, or Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful hired people to drive and actually do assessments of actual surveys of every single street. And then we did the same thing in 2017 with the county. We drove every single street in the county and looked for dumping. And we mapped that.
Was there a small, I'm sorry that I interrupt you, but
okay.
I'm curious, like what qualifies a dump site? Like, is there a size?
Yeah, that's what we had to determine. Those were some of the things we had to determine.
Yeah.
And basically if it was, I forget the determination now that we used. If it was a single, if we could determine that it was like a single incident of something being dumped, so not accumulation of trash.
Yeah.
You know, so like litter kind of can blow in and it can be almost the size of a dump site, but
yeah.
It's really just litter that has kind of accumulated. Little steps get that a lot.
Yeah, you're looking at like a focal point of someone.
So it could be a tire.
Yeah.
We could still call that a dump site because it was, you know, a thing that was dumped out, or a couch or a mattress.
Okay.
So it didn't necessarily have to be. There wasn't a quantity as in numbers, but quite frankly, if we only saw a tire or a TV, we would just pick it up and not count that as a dump site. But
that's what I would assume.
Yeah.
But I would also assume that, you know, you could get way over your head if you're, you know, just qualifying everything. You know, you got to be able to spread yourself where you need to be spread, because right. I'm sure that, you know, you can't just allocate all these minimal not even all these resources. You can't allocate these minimal resources that you have to these places that don't really warrant it, that could be, you know, kind of put on the back burner. Because I thought about that in the beginning, because if you look at your website, you know, you don't have like a crazy amount of people working. So, I mean, yins are all just like, you know, killing it, you know, just doing more work than I'm sure you could even handle.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And again, that's where the volunteers come in.
Yeah.
So our staff actually does the cleanups too. They're out. We have we're working on a second dump buster, or we have two crews, dump buster crews, and then a riverfront crew. So 3 altogether that are out about 4 to 5 days a week.
Oh, really? 4 to 5 days a week
cleaning up trash, and then we have litter program also that does different litter initiatives, getting supplies and things, litter kits, we call them, to individuals so they can collect trash.
Yeah.
We have a...
what is that called? Are they... I believe that Eli mentioned it to me. Is it...
The street stewards.
Stewards, that's
where those are the two organizations. That's kind of another organization or another... Okay. We work with them. Yeah. But we provide the kits. They kind of... Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that... I thought that was awesome that was like, you know...
Yeah.
People advocating for that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then we have people that can adopt storm drains outside of their house to keep those clean.
Yeah.
And we're doing stairways and bridges tend not to get tended, so we are doing those as well. So now I forgot. I got off track.
I'm sorry.
So sorry. No, I forget now what your question was.
My question was, we were talking about your volunteers, and like you were saying that you got 2 dump busters, and then you got a riverfront.
Yeah, so they're out there. So even whether they have volunteers or not, they'll go out and clean up. Yeah. But just about every day or every time they're out, they have at least one volunteer, and sometimes 20 or 40 or 50. The other, you know, in McKeesport, we had a big event with over 120 volunteers from UPMC.
Jeez.
So, you know, we did fantastic. A bunch of different stuff and yeah, so it can, you know, runs the gamut.
Let me ask you this. Now, if you have 2 dump buster teams and then you have a riverfront team, so let's say we're on a dump buster team, you know, what does that look like? You guys meet up and you just kind of break up and you find a focal point to throw all the trash in. And then, I mean, do you have dumpsters there?
We have a dump. Yeah, we have a dump truck. We have one dump truck, 2 pickup trucks, a van, and then a boat and a barge. So so we usually drop. Or if we're working in some neighborhoods, or if it's a big site, we'll rent a dumpster.
Yeah.
And our staff determine which site they're going to be working at. They have, that's the coordination part of it.
Yeah,
They're
logistics
kind of
behind
all
there.
the logistics. They meet up with the volunteers. They give a safety talk. Usually we work for about 3 hours. They give a safety talk and go through all the logistics of the day, what we're going to be doing, and then go about cleaning it up. And it goes into the dumpster, and tires get separated out, and
then they go to where they need to go.
And very little gets recycled.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it really can't be.
Now, all the stuff that you're finding in there, these are some questions that I was curious myself. What are some of the most interesting things that have been found? You know, I'm sure that you found some crazy stuff. Have you ever found a dead body? Or a remain? You don't have to. I'll cut this out. I'll cut it out. You don't have to. You don't have to say this.
Yeah, our boat captain found a body on the way to a cleanup, and it was a difficult.
I would assume that
very difficult things.
I bet it would be, but it's a reality, I'm sure, because if you guys are all in this, in these woods, that's one of the, whether you want to think about it or not, that's one thing that people like me,
always. You get asked that all the time.
Yeah, because the first thing I'm thinking about is that's where the movie cinematic stuff is. Dump a body in the woods, and you guys are cleaning all these.
Right.
You're probably the only people that are out there cleaning all these, so I'm sure that's a reality.
Yeah, but that was on the river. We haven't found anything.
Well, that's great. That's great that there was nothing that you found in the woods yet either.
Yeah, we do find a lot of our weapons.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
guns and stuff?
We find guns all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
We found the craziest thing we found was a loaded AK-47.
Wow.
In a garage that we were cleaning out.
Now, what is the process whenever you come across, whether it be unfortunately someone deceased or like a weapon, obviously you have to get the authorities involved because
Absolutely.
A weapon could have killed someone.
Right.
Is that what you do? You just call the police and have them come over and they take it and do what they need to do?
Yeah. Typically we don't allow anyone to touch it.
Yeah.
Again, in case of, is
some
evidence
way,
or something. Yeah. The reality is that often people don't realize what they're picking up exactly. For instance, the AK-47, initially someone thought it was just a bag. And that, and they went and they grabbed the bag and they picked it up and they're like, oh, there's something in this, and then unzipped it and the gun was in there. So,
Jeez.
At that point they had it. So, they brought it to us. And then we immediately called the police, and then they came and checked it, and
that's pretty wild.
All of that. At any time we find a weapon, we call the police.
That's crazy.
Yeah, anytime we find anything that's.
Have you found anything of value?
Well, that depends what you mean by value.
Well, I see on the story it'll say trash or treasure,
right.
And there's some good things on there. Yeah. I saw a couple good things on there, but something of real value.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. That's
we have found many safes.
Oh, really?
But none of them had anything in them.
Yeah.
By the time we found them,
were you open them? Like if you found a locked safe, like who is warranted? Let's say. Your dump buster crew came out and you found a safe. There was $15,000 in there that was locked. What happens then?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, we'd have to call the police.
Yeah,
but
that's interesting.
Yeah, we've never found them. I don't think we've ever even found any that were locked. Usually they're
probably been sorted through by then.
Yeah.
Now you said you found that gun in a garage. What was this, like a vacant property that you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that's another very, very common thing in the area, in the Pittsburgh area. A abandoned garages behind or in alleyways.
Yeah.
Where the roof
Caved
is collapsing, and people will use it to throw their trash in. It's a really, really common thing.
Wow, that's crazy. That's stuff that you just never really. I mean, you probably think about it. You probably dream about it at night
all the time.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
But it's like me. I'm stuck in my world, and that's why I want to talk to people like you, because like I feel like the people that listen to this are going to have really no idea.
Well, and that's why I'm here also, because that's the other reality, is that for some people it's a daily reality.
Yeah.
There are people. I use the little old lady story all the time, and I'm not trying to tug on heartstrings, but quite literally, this is a fairly common story. There's a woman that we were cleaning on the street near her house, I think is what it was, and she's homebound or fairly homebound, and asked a neighbor to come and get us and talk to us, and let us know that there was this dump site beside her house, and just asking if we could help with that. So when we got there, what we found is her house was standing. Next to it was a house that was mostly torn down, or kind of
just like a shell of it.
Yeah, and dumping all through the yard. And she had lived there all of her life. She had nothing to do with this other property.
Yeah.
But rats were, rampant in there.
My God.
Everything that you can imagine. It was a dump site. It was basically a landfill next to her house, and she was, bearing the brunt of that.
Yeah, probably tired of it.
Right, and she couldn't clean it up. She was this old woman that was, for the most part, housebound.
Yeah.
So that's not uncommon, and there are many people that deal with dumping or litter constantly, and it's their daily experience. So they walk out the door and they see this constantly, versus those of us who see it every once in a while and get disgusted by it, but have a totally different mindset. And one of the things that, number one, we don't think anyone should have to live near a dump site, because you can't imagine what that does to someone's mental state too. If you're constantly walking out of your house and seeing filth and dirt, right?
Yeah.
What does that do to your sense of self and your sense of place, of where you live and your connection to the community?
Yeah.
So yeah, we always try to work with communities, get invited in by a community to help address. We don't go marching in and say, we're here to fix your
you're
dirty,
just like
your dirty
we're
community.
giving you a hand.
Yeah, well, when we're asked to come in generally by someone in the community or someone in the municipal government, and then we work with them to clean it up. That
is, it's probably now that you say like the story about that woman. Like I can't even imagine how many like situations there are like that.
There are a ton.
I bet. What's the best way for people to get involved if they want to be involved after hearing our conversation?
Go onto our website, and there are links to volunteer. And if you don't see anything immediately that you want to get involved in, you can just email us and get on our newsletter.
Figure something out. I saw that there's a place to donate if you are, if you're out of state or something like that, and you want to, kind of participate in that. There's places to donate. Now, I'm curious. It's like, what is, what's your biggest way to raise money for the organization?
Actually, individual donations is a growing way. We never, for a number of years, we were a growing organization, and we depended so much on volunteers and volunteers who are doing such difficult stuff that, I think we didn't ask, honestly, for people to donate, because we thought they were giving their time and their energy, and they're doing this horrible thing. And we've started to ask, and people have started to give, because as you were kind of pointing out, some are not able to or don't want to clean up, but they want to live in a community that's clean. Yeah. So they'll gladly give money, and that's enormously helpful. Most of our funding comes through grants, so foundation grants and corporate grants primarily.
Yeah. That makes sense. Do you find that the city of Pittsburgh does good in, providing yins with help and the resources that you need?
Absolutely. Yeah. They're, and it's becoming better and better, honestly. We sit on a commission called the Clean Pittsburgh Commission.
Yeah.
That has worked to improve, to make a lot of the improvements that we're talking about, as far as having more resources, having more trash cans in community. Everything that, none of it is easy. Having recycling cans for everyone. That's something that's just starting in the city, believe it or not. Not everyone had they were expected to recycle, but we're not given. Yeah,
they were expected to buy their own if they wanted to.
Right. Or use the blue bags. So, doing things like that, there's now an electronics collection at the city where people can actually take their electronics. And there's a fee, but at least there's a place that they can take them. They can take tires to the city. So the city's been great. And through the Clean Pittsburgh Commission, we've hired some anti-litter coordinator, some enforcement. We're now increasing the number of enforcement officers working on illegal dumping. We have a great relationship with the Public Works, and so it's good. It's getting better and better.
How do you? What's a litter enforcement? Like how? What does that entail? How does someone become a litter enforcement person?
Well, I think they're just hiring now. They might have hired the first person. I don't know, but the idea, when we talked about the cameras and all of the,
that's exactly what I imagine, is me sitting in my car waiting for someone to come up, and then I don't know what you do after that, but you just call someone real quick.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure either, but I think that the idea is that they're the people that will be checking the cameras, following up on the investigation, working with the
real
police.
Juicy work.
Yeah, working with the police. That's what I imagine it to be.
Now I'm curious, you working in this, and this being your life, do you find yourself? I assume you find yourself being more proactive to leaving a, less waste to what's right terminology? Being more considerate. I'll say that whenever you're just living your everyday life, as far as, items that you're buying, because me, like I said, I'm a civilian that has nothing to do with this and is kind of ignorant to it all. So I'm sitting there while you're talking to me about this, and I'm thinking of, the other day I just went to Costco and bought toothbrushes. It was like a box of 10 of them. I was like, I'll never have to buy these again. But it's like, man, once they get thrown away, they're going to be there forever. So I should probably buy the bamboo ones from now on. And, I'm just starting to think of things like that. Are these things that you implement into your life?
Yes. Yeah. I try to.
Yeah.
And I think we all try to, and that's where we have become a little bit more compassionate for other people who are trying also. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. That's not to say don't try. It is to say that we would like it to be much easier for people, and really that manufacturers would be more responsible with what they're making. But
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, they are. Just to, I think that some of the movements that we are seeing, like you mentioned, for instance, the compostable doggy bags or whatever, or biodegradable, I think is what they call them, biodegradable doggy bags. All of that stuff, and you're starting to see biodegradable plastics and stuff, even though to a certain extent, it's a little bit of greenwashing. There's not a whole lot of, I won't go into the details of that. But it's a movement in the right direction, and it's obviously a response to people saying we want something different.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it, because I'm sure that it's not like, that's obviously not a solve everything, but it is it's better than nothing. It's better than not having them at all.
Yeah. And I think what it really shows is that manufacturers do hear and respond to to consumers.
Yeah.
And consumers have been saying for the last, decade or more that, no, we don't want all this plastic in the environment. We want something different. And they're listening, and they are changing. And
it's one of the blessings with this toxic internet that we have in the world that everyone, it's one of the blessings, very one of the small silver linings is people have a voice, and it's good and bad in that too,
right?
Because
for sure,
some crazy stuff could happen. Yeah. But it's interesting to think about that as far as like implementing things into your life to kind of, just small changes that might, it might not seem like you're doing a lot, but you think about if you're, actively just trying not to use plastic silverware anymore. Like that's what I do at work. I have metal silverware, and I will use them, but these people that I go get my lunch, they're always like, you need silverware or anything like that. And, often or not, that silverware just gets, thrown in a drawer. Mm-hmm. And I start to think, I work with a lot of like older guys. I'm about to just start chirping in their ears, being like, we got to get rid of this plastic. I'll wash the silverware for everyone. I don't care.
That's what I say all the time.
I know. That's interesting because it's crazy to think about that. That's the thing that's sticking into my mind is water bottles and plastic silverware, because me and my wife will order something and it's like they don't even, in their mind, they don't give any care at all. And they're just like, oh, here's 6 of them. And you're like, what am I doing with these? Like, why are you even giving me them?
Yeah. And often it doesn't make sense, especially if it's coming to a home.
If it's coming to a home, exactly. You don't need plastic silverware because no one's going to use plastic over a nice metal fork.
Right.
It's crazy to think about that, but that's something small that you can implement in your life. And these water bottles, I got to get rid of them.
And we as an organization use those for years.
Yeah.
Because when we're working with volunteers, and they're if we have 30 volunteers on a hot day, we want to make sure they're hydrated, and so we would have water bottles.
That makes sense.
And we got to the point where we just couldn't, in good faith, continue to use them, and so we were trying to find other ways of doing it. So we would bring the
old school jugs, yellow
school jugs, and then we had REI gave us some cups.
That's great.
Some camping cups, and we would use those. But what we would find is we're working at a dump site, and so you have this cup.
It's getting stuff inside
of it.
It got
stuff inside of it, and or someone would set it down, and then it would
you need
get
an
dirty.
Allergen.
Yeah,
one of them Allergen bottles with the screw in top.
But to get one for everyone, and, to be able to, so we would encourage people to bring their own, but we would still try to have something.
Yeah,
and that's when we discovered we went looking for water in a can, which is not easy to do actually, and we found out that because of the pressure or something like that,
whatever you got to do in it,
fizzy water, it works a little bit better. But anyway, Liquid Death. Now, keep mentioning Liquid Death.
Have you guys linked up with them? Any contact with them at all?
We have. I mean, we order from them.
Yeah, but like nothing as far as that.
No.
I think I know a couple people that I might be able to figure something out.
Gotta have some Liquid Death.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get in on it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like that. I don't really care about me getting it, but if I'm sure they'd be more inclined to, because I'm pretty sure one of the part owners is from Pittsburgh.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. I'm going to figure that out for you because I've been meaning to look into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Okay, so I think that we touched on a good bit of what all of you good people do over Allegheny CleanWays. Do you think that there's anything that I forgot as far as, the business, day-to-day, not really the business, but the organization, things like that?
I don't think so. We didn't talk a whole lot about the river, the stuff we do on the river. And,
that's true.
And that is,
I would love to talk about it.
Yeah, just because it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
As you go out on a boat, and so many people. I think it's changing, but definitely my generation, we didn't go on the rivers. The rivers were contaminated.
Really?
We didn't go in the rivers. My mom grew up on Neville Island, and she swam in the rivers.
Ugh.
But then there was a generation after that was like, ugh, you don't want to go near the rivers.
Yeah, the Mon.
The rivers are improving.
Yeah.
They are getting better.
The Mon?
Even the Mon. Now,
it's not as bad.
Right. Incrementally, but fish are coming back. We had the bass what's the National Bass Tournament?
Bass Pro Shop?
Was held here twice.
Oh, wow.
In the Pittsburgh.
That's pretty wild.
Rivers. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
that's interesting to think about that too. Yeah, the rivers are the first time I seen anything as far as cleanups is there was a kid from my high school named Mike Keenest, and he had a boat. It was like a John boat, and he put together some people. I don't know if it was through a different organization or something, but they often go down to like Buney and the Yacht and everything, and they cleaned out a crazy amount of tires from down there. And this had to be probably a year ago.
Well, that might be that. So we're actually going to be on the Mon. Our team's going to be on the Mon for a blitz this from Friday to Monday. And one of our staff members, Hannah, lives on the Yacht, and her friends do in Buney, in that area. That's where she lives.
That might be.
They're doing a big cleanup, and they donate money to us each year from the cleanup, and they did last year. So yeah, they're doing. It's this weekend, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to see because I know that he shared something. Because I'd like to be able to like try to promote it a little bit for him, because I know that he was looking for. I don't know. I'll look at it. I'll put it in the intro. But yeah, it's the river stuff is crazy because there's anything in there. The rivers are wild for sure.
Yeah, and it constantly every time there's a flood, every time there's a rain episode, there's new stuff in the river, and we're just trying to prevent it from going down further.
What do you think the biggest nuisance in the river is? Is it tires?
Plastic bottles.
Plastic bottles.
Yeah, so the name of our riverfront program is called the Tireless Project.
Yeah,
and it was actually formed by a guy that was rowing through the area. He rowed from New York City, inland route from New York City on the Erie Canal, down the Allegheny, down the Ohio, down the Mississippi, and then into the Gulf, and then came up the coast.
Jeez.
He rode that, and then wrote a book about it. And he stopped in Pittsburgh and was talking to Mike Lambert at the Three Rivers Rowing Association, and talked about how dirty this area was and how many tires he saw. And so they formed an organization called the Tireless Project.
Wow.
To both, which I think there was kind of a play on words, getting rid of the tires so that the city would become tireless.
Yeah.
And the volunteers were tireless.
Yeah, because a lot of work.
Yeah, and they worked the first year. I think they were out just about every day the first summer, and removed about like 31 tons of stuff. And
jeez,
yeah,
that's crazy.
That was the origin of that.
The river. It's very interesting. I used to be a big fisherman with my dad, and I've just started to get back into it this past year, and I just caught some walleye down on the Mon, which I was pretty surprised.
Yeah.
They were some nice fish. It's weird to think about it because you hear about all the mills, everything like that. It's all terrible, and I'm sure that it is, but it's great to hear that there's some sort of, great to hear that it's not just keep going in the negative.
No, it's really improving quite a bit. The number of fish that have come back is impressive, and I swim in the Mon a lot. I paddleboard a lot, so when I'm out paddleboarding, I will get in. I get into the rivers, and
I got no problem with it. I ate a fish out of the Mon the other day, and I put it on a fishing Facebook group, and they were like, ugh.
Yeah.
Tasted great.
There are times I know the rivers well enough. After a big heavy rain,
I
won't go in.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. you watch the.
Yeah, you gotta be a little bit smart with it. Yeah. Okay, so the ending segment that I do with all my guests is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. Everyone always does that.
Oh no.
This is no pressure. Don't feel any pressure, but like we obviously talked about what you do every day, what you live and dream about every day.
Okay.
But Desert Island Questions is whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die.
Oh my goodness.
It's bleak, I know. First category, you get 3 movies to take with you. So in a world where you're, Tom Hanks and Castaway, and you got a little 12-inch TV, and you can just get 3 DVDs.
Oh, wow.
Over and over again.
Oh my goodness. That's really hard. Yeah, interestingly, I don't think it would be my favorite movies.
That's all right.
Because my favorite movies is like The Mission and or Babette's Feast. That I don't want to watch that over and over again because they're kind of depressing.
That would make sense.
So like Caddyshack or something like that would probably be.
Wouldn't be The Mission. It would be Caddyshack.
It would be Caddyshack. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Oh man, 3 movies.
But these are designed to kind of throw you through a loop.
Yeah.
Just because, I asked 3 of your favorite movies, and I really want what's like rushing to your head. Because, these are movies you're going to watch every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that every day for the rest of your life. What would I not get tired of?
It's hard.
I don't even tend to watch movies again. That's the crazy thing. Like right now I'm binging, getting caught up on, because everyone else is done with it, Better Call Saul.
That's what I got to start next.
Yeah.
I watched 2 seasons of it, and I was like, this is better than Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's good. I like the Breaking Bad references in it a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
Did you like Breaking Bad?
I did.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
Are you someone that watches like Ozark, stuff like that?
Watched Ozark.
Yeah. Did you like that?
I did. I had to stop watching it because it got a little too dark in the pandemic. There were certain things during the pandemic I just couldn't watch.
It's just anxiety. There's
Yeah.
like one smidgen of comic relief every 45 minutes, but the rest is just gives me anxiety.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of how. So it was really good, but I did have to take a break from that. I don't know. So maybe something else happy or.
What do you usually like? What do you find yourself watching? Like, what do you do when you're not working? Like, what do you do for fun? What do you do when you're not working?
Oh, you mean like for entertainment?
Yeah.
Binging Netflix and stuff like that.
Okay.
Are the typical, or watch movies.
Yeah.
But watching them again and again for the rest of my life, that's the thing that's caught me up. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
If I think of one,
that's fair.
I'll come back to it.
What about? So, are you someone that reads?
Yes.
What about 3 books?
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? There's a book that I've been wanting to reread because I loved it when I first read it decades ago. And I think it's one that I could read again and again and get new stuff from it. It's called Fugitive Pieces. It was a Canadian writer. It was back in the probably early 2000s or late 90s. And it was very poetic. It was, so Fugitive Pieces. There was just a lot of layers to it in 2 different time periods, and and the language was very, poetic, for lack of a better word. So that, Wendell Berry, I love Wendell Berry. A lot of his writing, essays especially, but maybe one of his fiction would be a good thing to read.
Okay.
And one thing that I did read during the pandemic because I needed something light and non-tragic was A Gentleman in Moscow?
A Gentleman in Moscow.
I think that was the name of it.
What was that about?
It was, complete fiction.
Oh.
Guy that...
Sometimes you just got to get away.
Yeah, got holed up in... after the Bolshevik Revolution, he was an aristocrat, got holed up in this hotel, and he lived in a hotel for years.
Have you always been a reader? Mm-hmm. It's like I per decade I'll read real heavy for a couple months, and I'll take off the next 9 years. And it's like right now I'm in the thick of reading now, but I'm not reading books now. I got real into comics. I've been reading like thicker graphic novels, like horror, like psychological type stuff. And it's like people often think like, oh, comic books, like you're reading about X-Men and stuff, but it's like the reason I even got into it is because I was killing time. My wife was shopping, and I was like, "Oh, there's a comic book shop in McMurray, and I'll just walk in there."
Yeah.
It's just like an endless amount of literally any subject matter you could ever want. So I've been pretty deep into comics lately. Yeah, it's interesting because I never was ever in my life, and I read more in the past month than I have in probably the last 10 years. And it's pretty cool because it comes with the pictures. So it's like a little user friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the third category, you get 3 CDs. I'm curious to hear what your music picks are.
I was going to say CDs are probably easier, and it's going to totally show my age. But that's I'm going to preface this by saying I always thought I would never become this person. The person that kind of gets stuck in the music of their youth or of their.
Do you think that there's more people that are not like you or that are like you? Because I am like you.
There are way more people that get stuck in
1,000,000%.
Oh, sure.
Especially asking these questions because, often or not, more often than not, people are not picking the most current things because it's just new and trendy, but it's like the timeless things.
And I do like, in my defense, there's a lot of music I do like now, but there's something about the
old school hitters.
There's something I think in our makeup that has that.
Oh yeah, nostalgia ties into it. Feelings, emotion,
what
it all
you were going through, in
that moment. 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So I would pick. I'm sure this says so much about me. But I would pick Indigo Girls, Nomads, Indians, and Saints. And that probably came out in like 88 or something like that.
Nomads, Indians, and Saints. 1990. Year I was born.
Okay, yeah. And I was graduating from college, and I was starting off my life, and there's I distinctly remember like playing it as I was driving to Delaware, and there's a song called Watershed, and, you're this watershed moment to try and make decisions about what you're going to do in your life. And I was like, yes, that's me.
Yeah. Plays
and so it was just all that, but the whole CD just is of that.
I love that. That's good.
Mindset. Yeah. That, just getting out of college and all of the things. There's one called Hammer and Nail that I used to do a lot with Habitat for Humanity. And so, that's and people of my generation.
I've never heard of them, but I'm definitely going to listen after this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's it was part of that. Do you remember Lilith Fair? Or are you too young to
I know the name of it. So
Lilith Fair was, for a while, there were a lot of, it was a women's only musicians that had a music festival for only female musicians.
That's wild.
Yeah. And it was called Lilith Fair.
Lilith Fair.
And so I'm of that era.
All right. That's great.
Yeah. So Indigo Girls. And then a few years later, one of the best albums, I still think, Lucinda Williams.
I am familiar with that.
Okay. And Car Wheels on a Gravel Road.
Yes.
That was the best. And let's see, what else? A third one. Probably, honestly, it's probably some like, I was going to say some Rolling Stones or just something, where I know all of the songs.
Yeah, it's just like puts you in the moment where you just put it on and sing.
Again, I'm going to be there forever listening to the same song. So
I just listened to an interview with Keith Richards, and it was fascinating because like it's like a guy seeing a million lives, just hearing him talk about things and like just the way that just hearing him talk about things. It's like in someone who is like one of the biggest musicians of all time, he doesn't talk about it like he cares about all the extras. He just talks about the music, and it's like so like I don't know. It's romantic to hear about it that someone who's lived that life of being a superstar still just talks about getting lost in performing, and it's crazy.
That's neat.
It is neat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Those are good. Those are good.
Actually, I might change that one though to something that would be more like Blind Boys of Alabama or something like that. That has a little bit of a gospel and bluesy kind of feel to it. Something like that.
Yeah, it fits. Okay.
Sorry.
I got 3 more questions for you. They're not as crazy, but they're still very telling. The third to last question is something called the death row meal. So, the death row meal is, I don't know if you've ever seen the articles of, people get put to death, they get their last meal.
Sure.
As grim as it is, what would your last meal be if you had to pick an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert?
Oh, my goodness.
I know, I asked too many questions.
And my answers are going to be so boring, too, because I'm vegetarian, so
that's all right.
They're not going to be.
In 200, I think you're going to be 209, episode 209. Can't even imagine the stuff that I've heard.
Yeah. So appetizer, I think I would go with just a really good spinach salad with goat cheese, pecans.
Oh, I love goat cheese. That's good.
Pecans and cranberries.
I'm new to that. I'm new to the fruit on top of a salad with a blue cheese or like a gorgonzola or something like that. I never liked it, and it just a switch flipped.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and a good vinaigrette. That would probably be the appetizer.
That's perfect.
The meal.
How long have you been a vegetarian?
Most of my adult life.
Oh, yeah.
I was in college. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm not terribly strict about it. Never have been. I was, in my early 20s, I would eat some chicken or fish every once in a while, but
yeah,
I've been lower on the food chain my whole life, most of my adult life. For the meal, I probably would. One food that I could eat all the time is Indian, so like chana masala, something like that. Just
all right.
It doesn't really go with a spinach salad though.
That's all right.
It doesn't. My food might not go together, but
that's all right.
My last meal.
Yeah, your last meal. Don't even matter.
Yeah, right. And for dessert,
are you a sweets person?
I'm a sweets person.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's always my favorite thing to hear because it always inspires me for the next time.
But this is the hardest one for me because there's so much that I could, anything chocolate, like a good,
I'm not a sweets person in regards of like candy, like gummy, like sweet tarts, stuff like that. I'm not that type of sweets person. Really. I'm like a chocolate bar, anything, Kit Kat, some Rocher, stuff like that. You can't leave it around me. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, me
Baked
too.
goods,
yep,
terrible.
Yep. So yes, everything you just said.
That's fine.
But yeah, like a good chocolate. The bakery on Mount Washington, the Grandview Bakery, used to have I think they called it the Grandview cake or something like that. Because it's like this chocolate cake with chocolate icing and raspberry filling thing. It was so good.
Right up my alley.
Yeah, it was really good. That might be it.
That's good. I'll give you that. That's a good one. Okay, the second to last question, probably the most telling question, probably the most judged question. If you're getting ready for a road trip, you go into a gas station to get a snack.
Oh, no.
What would it be?
No.
Why?
Oh, no.
Is it something weird like circus peanuts?
No, it's just awful. It just tells everything that I just said earlier, like everything, this whole thing just goes out the window.
A Slim Jim.
No. It's even worse.
What is it?
So and this is like actually what I get. Like this is a real thing.
Okay.
When I'm road tripping, I get Mountain Dew, peanut M&Ms, and combos.
My goodness, that's like a trifecta.
That's like a trifecta of garbage that
Mountain Dew. That's like fuel though. Like you're not going to fall asleep.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that it's because the reason there's reason behind this. I hate Mountain Dew. I hate all pop actually. I don't really like pop, but Mountain Dew's loaded with caffeine, and so when I'm road tripping, I need the caffeine, and then the both combos and peanut M&Ms are things that I'm like constantly putting in my mouth.
Small pieces that you could just keep going. Yeah.
So it's like keeping me awake.
A lot of people pick combos, and I don't.
Combos, really.
A lot of people do, and
That's amazing.
I haven't picked a combo. I haven't had a combo in probably over 15 years.
I literally only eat them when I'm on a road trip.
I think that is why they're in people's minds whenever I ask this question, because they're a small snackable item that is not too messy.
Yep.
Man, have you ever had the pretzel M&Ms?
Yes.
sensational.
Yes.
But the peanut M&Ms are better.
But yeah, it's totally gross. I know there's nothing good about what I just
That's
said.
all right.
Total garbage for my body, total garbage for the planet, everything. But
that's all right.
That's the reality.
That's all right. I love the reality of it. Okay, the last question that I ask everyone: if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why? Now,
oh my gosh.
if you would, I will allow a loved one, but I would like to know someone that you're not related to.
Sure. Yeah. Jesus is too obvious, but I would like to.
He's been an answer a good bit of times.
Yeah, but I'd like to.
The guy, Nick Paradise, who is he's a guy, Kennywood, he's the marketing. He said the same thing. He was like, that's too easy. I'm not going to pick that. And he picked someone else. But I'll give you two then.
No,
I'll let
won't.
you pick first.
I won't pick that. But in all reality, I have some questions.
I like how you said that. I have some questions.
Yeah. Okay, here's an off-the-wall one. My mom, when I was growing up, my mom would always refer to herself as Hedy Lamarr.
Okay.
She would, who do you think I am, Hedy Lamarr?
Yeah.
Hedy Lamarr was this beautiful actress.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was an old-time actress. My mom always said that. In my mind, I always had this image of who this was. And then as I grew up, I learned that not only was she this beautiful actress, but she was really smart and was an inventor and a great scientist.
Really?
So I would like to have a conversation with Hedy Lamarr.
What a good answer. I'm going to have to look her up a little bit more after this.
Yeah, I was kind of fascinated when I grew up and realized.
How do you spell that name, Hedy?
Heddy.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Definitely a good answer. Well, I think we had a great conversation. I really do.
Thanks.
How do you feel about it?
Good. You got me thinking at the end.
But I feel like that, it's you talking about your job. It's obviously your life. This is a second nature. You could probably do it in your sleep, talk about this. But after we learn about what you do, I like to give people a little bit of a glimpse into, who you are as far as like some CDs, your snacks, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta, I feel like it grounds everyone.
Yeah.
People could have these prolific answers and then you're like, I like Mountain Dew and peanut M&Ms and some combos and everyone's like, all right, that's the same person I am. You know what I mean? Like we like the same things,
They'll be astonished. Yeah.
Definitely a great conversation. Will you please take a second and promote all of the good things that you guys are doing down there?
Sure. Yeah, we have. I don't know when this is coming out, but
this will be out Thursday.
Oh, okay. So we have a cleanup coming up on. I don't even know what days this is. 25th. We have a cleanup on Chartiers Creek. If you have a canoe, we're going to be canoeing from. What used to be the Sharp Edge, which is now Caliente Pizza.
Yeah.
We'll be canoeing from there to the mouth of the Chartiers Creek in Keys Rocks and doing cleanup the whole way. So that's a fun thing to come out for. We have cleanups 4 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You can always sign up for a dump site cleanup. We're going to be adding Thursdays as well here soon. We have, you can become a Great Keeper, which is adopting a storm drain. You can get a litter kit and do some litter cleanups on your own. And, and you can go out on our riverfront cleanup program is going to be on the Mon River from Elizabeth to the Point in doing a 4 day, sleeping on the houseboats on the river for 4 days.
Really?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
When is that?
That's this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Wow.
In September, they're going to be doing 2 weeks on the Allegheny.
Jeez.
And going from Freeport to the Point. And
that is crazy.
Doing cleanups for 2 weeks over. And as I said, living on houseboats and
having fun
and doing cleanups with community groups and corporate groups and any volunteers that want to come out.
Best way for you to figure this all out, AlleghenyCleanWays.org. There's drop-down menus there. There's more information than you could probably read through at one time. Get into the weeds there. If you want to get involved, you could DM me, and I'll even instruct you to the same thing I just instructed now. And I'm going to try to figure something out as far as the people who listen to this, and maybe put together, a group, a volunteer group. I would like to do that.
Awesome.
I think that I could definitely try to rustle up some people. What's like a good amount of people? Like what could do some damage? 10 people?
10 people is great. Yeah, especially if you're doing either a riverfront or cleanup. We can take about 10 people out on the boat at a time, so that's a nice group. And then we can do a lot of damage on the land. I'm gonna figure something out. Mark my words. Great.
Everyone else that's listening, I appreciate it as usual. Another great week with another great person in the city doing another great thing. You know what I mean? We're each and every week we're talking to great people that are doing things to make the place we live, a place that we want to be. But I appreciate everyone listening as usual. Call you right back.